This video is for everyone just really upset with partisan politics and looking for a belief system, a way out. You might be coming from the right and thinking, you're a free thinker, you're a critical thinker, you're thinking, I believe in small government. A president being a bully is not small government. Tariffs are not small government. I signed up to border protection, not the insanity going on today. Or you might be thinking you're harsh, you're practical. So why is the right always bringing religion into everything? That doesn't seem logical or practical or small government at all. Or you might be coming from the left and wondering, gee, I'm starting to question some beliefs on foreign policy or regulation or domestic policy, and everyone's calling me a Nazi. The intolerance on the left has become completely out of control. What happened to civil liberties and the party of peace and thought and free thinking? And when did the left start hating the most successful system ever created by man, capitalism? Well, I know your choices at the voting booth are very, very limited, but that doesn't mean that you have to fully believe in either one of these systems. And it also means you can encourage people in your party to believe alternative ideas. So I've been working on something a long time. It's called Compassionate Libertarianism. You can learn more about it at reddit.com/newlibs, and we're going to go over the 5 principles of compassionate libertarianism, okay? Principle number 1, free and informed markets will bring the most prosperity. Informed meaning the information is clear and transparent, and the market is competitive. Think about where this actually exists. In electronics, in TVs, it exists in books, these types of products. These are the only places in all of America where there hasn't been massive inflation. Yes, where the economy is allowed to be competitive and allowed to innovate is where there hasn't been regulation. So free and fair markets bring the most prosperity. And this is Econ 101. There's a million examples of it. Wherever there's more government intervention, you have less choice and higher prices. Another example is in the 2008 crash. After the 2008 crash, we came in with tons of financial regulation to protect people. What is the result? Almost no new banks and higher bank fees, right? This happens almost every time with regulation, as we always go overboard. The second principle, replace regulation with transparency. So a lot of safeguard regulation is just not necessary anymore. We can use technology and transparency and digital transparency to replace old school regulation. I'll give you 3 industries. Healthcare. Imagine if ChatGPT was legally allowed to be a doctor, right? Now, obviously it's not perfect. There's gonna be lawsuits, there's gonna be mistakes made, but imagine how much that would draw down the price of a doctor's visit, and the supply of doctors and nurses would go through the roof. It's not perfect, but it would create innovation. And in terms of, and as long as we had transparency and we had a rating system, this would be a far better solution than what the government offers. Think about Yelp, but for health. It would pop up in a second if we allowed it. You could say the same thing about financial regulation, right? Blockchain technology allows for automated decision making. You don't need a subjective piece of paper telling you who owns what property. Same is true of education. What if legally you're allowed to use different technology systems for education instead of a college system where a third of the cost is administrative and the costs just keep rising, right? The third principle, value shared resources. So there are market failures, and a lot of libertarians don't address it. This is why this is compassionate libertarianism. Market failures is where the market, free market system doesn't work. One of the best examples is externalities. This is where 2 parties engage in something and someone else suffers or gains. And the most common example is the environment. So a factory makes some goods, sells it to another person, free and fair, but the third person, person C, receives pollution. That's not fair to them. That's negative externality. But if we valued nature, if we put financial prices on pollution, on trees, on nature, we can incorporate it into the financial system instead of relying on command and control, government rules that don't allow for innovation, and philanthropy to manage our natural system. There's other types of market failures, right? If there's a monopoly, we need to figure out how to deal with that. And libertarians just ignore it. I'm saying let's not ignore it. Let's face market failures head on, and let's figure out how to deal with common resources, and let's value them. Parks, public schools, nature. The fourth principle is compassionate safety net. While not completely efficient economically, we can afford to pay for basic stuff for down on their luck Americans or children. We can give them health care, we can give them food, we can give them basic necessities. We can afford it. Is it inefficient? Does it not seem right to some people? Sure. But we produce so much goods and we have so much wealth that we can afford that. And it will produce positive externalities. Those people will grow up and they'll give back to the economy. Now, there's a big distinction here. The government doesn't need to actually provide those people services. It just needs to pay for them. I'll give you an example. Free school lunch, right? We don't need government employees making the food, packaging the food, selling the food. Private companies can do that, but the government should be paying for it. We should be providing basic services for people in need. This is the compassionate element of this belief system. And the last one, fiscal discipline for justice. The number one, and I think the only cause of inflation, is government overspend. If the economy produces 100 apples in $1 million, and now the government hires a bunch of people to do some administrative tasks, now there's $2 million in the economy, and there's still only 100 apples. The cost of the apples is going to double. That's inflation. Asset prices for housing are going to go up, more than double. And the government is going to crowd out the best resources, the best workers, the best technology. That means the apple farmers are not going to have it anymore. The government is going to be using it instead for other things. So government overspend is not helping anyone. In fact, it's hurting the poor the most. When Trump brought in Elon Musk for Doge, some people thought this was a great idea. In some ways, I did too. But Elon Musk was tricked by Trump. They only ended up cutting from liberal causes. And then Trump took that whole chunk of budget and put it into the Pentagon. There was no decrease in budget. In fact, his financial discipline is worse than Obama's was. And so there's nothing conservative about what's going on currently. But if you believe in giving the poor a fair chance, if you believe that the 10 richest people, their wealth going from 10 billion to 10 trillion in the last few years makes no sense at all, then you have someone to blame. It's government overspent. So this is my belief in compassionate libertarianism. I think it's a very common sense belief and can be taken up on the right and the left. You can learn more about it at reddit.com/newlibs, NEWLIBS, and I hope you enjoyed the video.